Welcome to our second mini lecture on promotion. In this video we're going to be looking at advertising and promotions, and these are our learning objectives for this mini lecture. So make sure you have a look at these. These are the things that you should be able to do by the end of this video and certainly by the end of this week. We're going to start off by looking at advertising. And the first thing that businesses will do when they're thinking about advertising is to determine their objectives. What is it that we want to achieve with this advertising? And their objectives could be many different things. They might be trying to inform us, to tell us about their brand, to tell us about a new product, to tell us about the advantage that their service can bring to us, many different things. They could be trying to persuade us to buy something. And they might just be trying to remind us about their brand or about the products that they have available. So once they've determined their objectives, they will use their objectives to create strategy. And the purpose of that strategy, of course, is to accomplish or achieve those objectives. And the strategy will have two major elements. One is about the message. What kind of message do we need to create? And the second is about where do we put that message? How do we successfully communicate that message to our target audience? So thinking about the message, the most important thing perhaps is that the message can somehow break through that clutter. We're all bombarded, aren't we, with advertisements all the time. On the sides of buses, on the sides of buildings, every time we're online, on social media, on the TV, the radio, everywhere. So how does a business break through that clutter? Should they perhaps merge their advertising with some kind of entertainment? What kind of content do they need in that message to make sure that it particularly appeals to their target message? And should they think about trying to encourage us as consumers to interact and generate some content of our own that will give the campaign some life and some longevity? So getting the message right is critical, as is selecting the right advertising media. What do we mean by that? Well, we're talking about how we get that message to customers. Do we use print? Do we use online? What do we use? And what are the reasons why we make our choices? Well, we want to reach our target market. We need to think about how often we want them to see that message and when. When is the best time to put that message out? So businesses will choose between a number of different media types. If the business has older customers, it might go for TV. If it's got a mass market product that it wants everyone to know about, television's a good way to achieve that. But if the business wants a more targeted campaign, and perhaps it's targeting young people like yourselves, then digital social media is likely to be more appropriate. But even then, which social media? Is it Twitter? Is it Instagram? Which is it? Newspapers, good for some products, not so good for others. Some businesses will use direct mail because that works for their business or their product type. Magazines. So if I'm trying to sell bicycles, high-end expensive bicycles, maybe I will try and promote in a cycling magazine because that will reach all age groups, all people who are interested in that particular thing. So for businesses, it's a question of really thinking about where does my target market look at media? What kinds of things do they look at, and where are they most likely to see my message? Of course, nowadays many businesses are global businesses, and that puts in place a whole extra set of problems really. Obviously what businesses would like is just to have one set of promotion activities that they can use right across the world. But in practice that just doesn't work, does it? Because countries have different languages, they have different cultures, we have different sense of humour sometimes, I think. Media is different, regulations are different, and so businesses, global businesses, will have to work quite hard to adapt their promotion to the country that they're in. So that's a very quick run through of advertising. Here's a summary that you can go back to and use for your notes. These slides will be online as well as the videos. We're going to move on now, and we're going to think about public relations, or PR as it's more commonly known. So what do we mean by public relations? Well, a public relations department does all of these things. It handles relationships with the press, if you like, to try and make sure that the business continues to have a positive brand image. It tries to generate publicity for the brand and the products. It gets involved maybe in public affairs, and in particular, public relations departments will lobby governments. So, for example, take a business like Study Group. We're in the business of international education. Study Group and other education providers like Study Group will all try to lobby government, to persuade government to make it easier for them to operate. So, for example, companies like Study Group will try to persuade governments to make visa regulations easier, to remove quarantine regulations in the case of a pandemic so that students can travel more easily between countries. So that's an important part of what public relations departments do. But the main focus is about promoting this positive brand image. So public relations is used by all sorts of organisations, people, places, things, not just products and services. You know, famous people like Lionel Messi will promote themselves. They will have public relations department to promote them as people. Think about ideas like trying to persuade people to stop smoking. There will be public relations around that. Nations will have public relations. Come to Britain for your holiday, you know. And so public relations is not advertising. It's about building good relations with consumers and investors and media. It's not paid for. It's about raising awareness through events, through news channels and so on. And because of that, it has a strong impact. I think as consumers, when we read a story in a newspaper, when we read a story in a news source online, we know that that's not paid for content, and so perhaps we believe it a bit more. And that can make it quite powerful in engaging us and believing that brand story. So it can be really powerful as a brand building tool. So again, a very quick run through. Here is our summary, which you can use for your revision. You will be able to access these slides on Canvas, and of course you can watch this video over again. So this has been a quick run through. You probably need to go back and go over things as well.